It's exciting. We're super excited. So one of the things we're going to do today is we're going to cover 9 key questions around the use of video. Like, why should you do it? How does it work? Is it worth doing it? Like what if your boss says we can't spend any more money? Like all kinds of stuff that we all have to face. And as you think about the role of video, could video accelerate your go-to-market? Could it make you more effective as a team, as a company? Could you close more deals, right? Like this is what we're going to get into. For anyone in building a company, it's been a challenging time, and so this is some research we put out in December called it's basically the macroeconomic impact on go-to-market. Like how is the economy and all this stuff shaping business, go-to-market teams, leaders, salespeople, like marketing leaders? How is this impacting us? And so if we look at it from like a macro lens, this is what it looks like on this chart. Right, we had a pandemic, right? That was a long time ago, but we're still feeling the consequences. And after the pandemic, there was a lot of fear and all kinds of stuff, uncertainty. But then things actually accelerated, and we had like an 18-month period where businesses were killing it. Like we tapped into the digitalization of everything. Everyone was IPOing. It was funding was out, like just buckets of cash flowing into businesses. And then the brakes started to slam on over last summer. And there was this like, are we in a recession? Is this real? Is it going to last? And interest rates are going crazy and you can't get a mortgage. It's like, it's an insane time. And then we hit this crazy insanity of layoffs, not because people are mean or businesses are bad, but because it was reality is that something was changing. And so I just want to paint this picture because video is not a tactic. Video is a strategic way to change the way you go to market. And so I want to give you some context of why to think about video as a way to solve the problem that we're all facing. So the real issue with volatility is it leads to uncertainty. So when markets are up and down and people aren't sure, they want more longevity, they want more runway, they want more profits, they want to invest less, like we kind of hunker down. And so if you look at, Fortune 500 companies or startups or SMBs or mid-market companies, regardless of industry, uncertainty and volatility has skyrocketed. Like the worry about, can I predict next quarter is real. And can I predict 3 quarters out? Like, oh my gosh, I don't know. Like that seems so difficult. How are we going to get there? And so what this has led to, and I don't think this will be a surprise to anyone on the call, because this is probably one of the top phrases people are using today, is we're shifting from growth at all cost mindset as businesses and go-to-market leaders to an efficient growth mindset. And in efficient growth, we need things that scale. We need things that can allow us to make everyone more effective and efficient. We want to get more productivity. We want to have like everyone's effort be better executed for the outcomes we're trying to get. And so in this sort of mode, video actually, to me, stands out as a play you can run to improve efficiency, because we're going to uncover in the 9 questions today, you're going to see a lot of like things can get more efficient. Teams can do better with this channel. So that's the backdrop. Now, the exciting part, we're going to jump into our first question. So Thad, I'm going to start with you. Do you see video as an essential tool? Like, is it a nice to have? Is it essential for sales teams? What are your thoughts?
This was mentioned during the introductions, but I have a background in video, so I have a bias towards video. But I almost view video as like a Swiss Army knife for communication. And I certainly almost use video by default in many situations. And so if I think about sales reps, kind of similarly, like need to do customized outreach, a video is great. Trying to create human connection, video is great. Want to share customer stories, send a video. Looking to create like a bespoke sales experience or a bespoke follow-up, video can be a great tool or a great modality for that. So in a word, yes, I absolutely think it's an essential tool for sales and frankly, for other parts of an organization as well.
Yeah, I love that. And I think humanizing, because we're all at home in our offices by ourselves, like we want that. We want personal. We want to hear someone's voice, right? I think that and see their face, that matters. Question number 2, what difference has a sales driven, now let's kind of get into the personalized experience side of video, right? Because that's the key to me. That's one of the keys of it, is it humanizes, personalizes it. So what difference has that made on your sales approach or your sales team, however you want to think about it? So Mallory, let's start with you on this one.
Yeah, so I mean, immediately you just see an uptick in response rates. So I think I'll use myself as an example. I get prospected to all the time as a sales leader, and very few people are using video. So you get kind of numb to seeing the same type of text and similar types of headlines that you tend to kind of archive, some of those emails very quickly. But when somebody sends over an email and it has video, you're enthralled, you're interested already. You've separated yourself from kind of the masses, and I'm paying more attention. So I think just that element, sometimes people haven't seen video used in email. If they have, they know they're going to get more of that human experience and they're eager to look at it. So the response rates have come up, and just by doing that, you're going to speed up your entire sales cycle, because most sales leaders will tell you, if you can get a customer on a call, it's much easier to sell to them. Getting them to respond back to you is the most painful part of the process. That's pretty time consuming. So minimizing that is really key to driving sales growth.
So good. I think there's a lot of things that, like an actual, ROI, sometimes it's hard to quantify. We did do a study for Vidyard about video, and that's something that's I'm sure you can get on the Vidyard website that has some really cool stats too. But I think it's an expectation. Buyers expect better experiences, and this is a really simple way to deliver on that. And so I think that's a great point. Okay, question number 3 and 4, I want to set up for a second. So when we think about like measuring success of kind of what we were talking about, measuring the success of video, if you will, it's kind of, in some ways it's like Slack or email. Like, would you turn off like the ability to email someone? No, like whether you have like a quantified ROI or not, like you have to email. And it's the same thing, like if you're using Slack or Teams or whatever you're using, like there's no turning it off. Like you can't go back once you start doing something that just works, period. Like you stop worrying about it because you just know it works. I love this stat. This is some research we did using G2's platform. So the reviews platform, there's a huge amount of data behind the reviews, right? And so we actually have access to it. We pull it, we do a bunch of studies, but this was one we found, which was like people looking to buy software that would help them create and close and accelerate more pipeline. Like if you look back at that before pandemic versus post pandemic, it's traffic, intent, demand, however you want to think of people looking to buy that kind of software, it's up almost 5 times, right? So this to me is sort of like everything has changed. Like the way we worked before pandemic versus now is very different. And we need tools like video, like Vidyard, and like a bunch of other stuff that will really help teams build and accelerate pipeline. And so this is just a good backdrop, I think, for the next 2 questions. So let's go to the 3rd question. So Mallory, we'll have you start with this one, which is, how are you measuring the success with video, and does it vary by role?
Yeah, so I think, to be honest, people get a little bit too caught up in like trying to determine the ROI of every single tool they use. My team is a scaled sales team, so they support hundreds of accounts at a time, and under my remit's around 10,000 customers. We use so many different tools that trying to isolate one at a time to figure out ROI is just not worth it to me. So what I look at is like, what is the cost of the tool itself? What is the cost of it for the reps on a daily basis? And is that worth it from a productivity standpoint? So for many of these tools on the market, including Vidyard, it could be a couple dollars a day in cost per rep. If I think about the value that they're going to get out of having more efficiency, or if they close one deal using video, what is the cost of that deal size compared to the cost of signing on with any type of provider or tool that will help with seller productivity, it's a no-brainer. So for us, what we look at is like, what's the overall cost of the product and how does it compare to us achieving our growth goals? And as long as that ratio nets out, we're usually happy with it. The other thing that we look at, besides do we feel like if it's influencing the sales cycle, is usage, right? So people don't talk enough, in my opinion, around keeping sellers happy, right? The happy sellers will usually lead to more growth. If you get turnover in sales, it's a long process to fill that type of role. So if a seller feels like they're being supported because they have access to tools that they feel helps with their productivity, that is huge. So I usually look at usage to see like how often are people using it. And if you cross over that 80-85% adoption rate level, that to me signals this is a tool that's a no-brainer. It has to be stuck in your tech stack for your sales team.
Super good. I love it. That any thoughts? What would you think? What are some other ways to think about it?
A couple of thoughts. We're kindred spirits. What Mallory was saying resonates with me, that notion that like, God, we can't measure everything. And I've experienced this at so many companies, like just tying yourself in knots, trying to isolate and measure every single thing you do. And like, for good reasons, people want to measure the effectiveness of things, but sometimes the juice isn't worth the squeeze. And like, it can just be really hard to measure everything. And to Mallory's point, it's virtually impossible to do it in isolation. So that said, and again, like I guess I've teased this a couple of times now, but I'll show you kind of an interesting analysis pretty shortly that we did on the ZoomInfo side that shows at least really strong correlation between usage of video and sales performance.
Where in your go-to-market efforts are you seeing success? So we can think about this as like where in the funnel, which teams, like there's probably, is it an SDR, BDR thing? Is it an AE thing? Is it a CS thing? Is it, mid-funnel?
So the way I think about it, we encourage our sales reps to use video throughout the entire funnel, like from prospecting all the way to close won deals, all the way to post-implementation. I don't think generic, I call them video emails, are particularly effective. I think they should be bespoke outreach emails. And I will share just a little pro tip that the better reps at ZoomInfo do. So when they're sending out a prospecting email, they'll almost always start on that prospect's website and make sure that the video thumbnail captures the prospect's website so that it's clear just visually from the thumbnail that this is a bespoke video. It's not just a generic video that we're blasting out to everybody. So yes, keep those tight, keep them under a minute, I'd say. And then as you get further and further down the funnel, say you've had a demo and somebody had a follow-up question after the demo, put together a bespoke video. And at that point, you've earned the right to put together a 2 to 3 minute video. And by the time you're about to sign a contract, maybe it's like a 5-minute overview of what the relationship is going to be like between you and this prospect.
This is a polarizing statement, and most people probably don't agree with me, but I'm going to throw it out there. I think you can do a generic video for initial outreach for a couple of reasons. One, it depends what your video is, right? If you're introducing who you are and you're like waving and saying who you are, like for me, I would say who I am, what my role is at LinkedIn, and how I help our customers see success. That's pretty true for every single customer. Me adding in the name, I don't know that it changes the value I'm providing in the video. So what we tend to do is we will have a kind of a generic email or generic video that we start with that we embed in emails to see if we get a bite. Because again, my group works with thousands of customers. So we, rather than taking the time to make every single one bespoke, we'll start a little bit generic, but make it feel personal. Remember, most of the people aren't seeing videos in their email, right? They're probably not getting video in their prospecting emails. So already you're standing out. So we start with that. And then if ones don't bite, but we feel like they're high potential and they should get another bespoke type of video, then we'll create a more personal one. And then we'll go into use their LinkedIn profile or go to their website and send that through as a follow-up. So that at least helps us cut down the large amount of personalization you can waste time on the beginning and then leverage it as like the second lever to pull if we didn't see success the first time. Because a lot of people will write back and be like, wow, that's so cool. We've never seen video like this. Like, sure, let's chat. That's faster versus me creating all those bespoke videos and kind of losing that time. So that's our approach.
Yeah, and I'm just gonna say, for anyone who's like unsure, it is so easy to test. Like, it's
Yeah.
so easy to get. Video is not like a big implementation. Like, you can just start. Um, and so I think both of you, Mallory and Thad, gave some really good ideas on that. And I think if the problem is clear that you solve, if it's like something people get, right, it's pretty clear what you do. If they know your brand well, you can probably engage a little bit differently than if they don't. And if they don't know what you do and they don't understand, if you're trying to really like get someone to think differently they've never thought before. So you'll probably have some different strategies depending on where you sit, or if you're emailing an existing customer versus trying to break into a name that's never heard of you, like probably have some different plays that you would run. So love that. All right, let's jump into
one thing on that, Brian, sorry to interject.
Yeah, please.
I think if you are going to do something generic from a video, you still have to make sure your email feels personal, right? You can't combine generic and generic, or it's going to be too much. So I think that's the key, is like sometimes people will do these really bespoke, interesting videos, but then they'll kind of have a lackluster email that it goes out with. And then that's not going to help drive that click-through rate. So the copy of your email, even with video, is going to be very critical at having that strong value proposition and call to action to encourage them to watch that video. So you have to think about both in tandem.
Yeah. So one of the best videos I got, video emails I got that just has never forgotten it, was they said basically, hey, Brian, I know you're at XYZ company, which is like everyone says that. But then they're like, I put together a quick video with some information about your top 3 competitors. Question 5, what are your top 3 use cases for using video messaging? So Thad will take yours on this one.
We've got a large sales team. So I went to all of our AE huddles and was talking to them and advocating for the use of video. And so this, just if you think about the funnel, when it's prospecting, like sharing one-on-one personalized videos or generic introductions, obviously sharing customer stories can be a good way to do prospecting, or product explainer videos can be good as well. When you get to the middle of the sales cycle, I think just sending out videos as a meeting reminder can be really effective. On the other side of the meeting, doing a meeting recap, handoffs, like sometimes you have to do a handoff from a salesperson to a sales engineer, let's say, or a solutions consultant. A video handoff can be a nice way to do that. I want to talk about micro demos. Let me circle back to that at the end, because that's probably one of my favorite types of videos. Or reviving cold deals, that can be another use case for video. And then when it comes to closing, like as salespeople, we're used to sending out proposals. Like doing a video walkthrough of a proposal can be a really nice touch. Summarizing value props and what this particular prospect is going to get out of your solution can be a nice touch when you're closing, or an overview of the post-sales process, like get them thinking like a customer before they've signed. So those are just some thoughts about different types of video to use throughout the funnel. The micro demo one, the reason I like that, when I say micro demo, what I mean is this happens in our world all the time. Curious if it happens in Mallory's world. You're on a call, you're doing a demo, somebody asks like a super granular question, let's say, like really wants to get in the weeds of something. And either you don't know the answer, or you just don't want to go there, or, for whatever reason, you're like, I do not want to go down this rat hole on the call live. But you also want to acknowledge that there was a question there. I feel like that's a perfect opportunity to put together a bespoke video, address this person's concerns, send it to them after the call, make them feel the love, make them feel like they're getting that bespoke sales experience without rat holing during the actual demo. So I think that's like a really nice way to both get yourself out of a tricky situation as a salesperson and also create kind of like this bespoke feeling experience for a prospect. And then the last thing I'll say, so like I'd say the top 3 types of video use cases: prospecting, those micro demos. And we're lucky here at ZoomInfo, we have an incredible video production team. So we put together, on the product and marketing side of things, really slick product videos that we hand over and make available to the sales team that they'll use to send out during the sales cycle. So those would be my thoughts on that one.
Yeah, I think you covered the kind of pre-sales process really nicely. I think from the post-sales perspective, there's also a ton of use cases for video, and I think people sometimes forget about that. So some of the ones that come to mind is a lot of times we'll do, kickoff calls with customers, and there may be a setup thing they need to do that they haven't done yet. Trying to send over instructions or tutorials all written out is very painful, right? It's much easier to take a video with a screen share of showing people what they need to do and how setup works. A lot of times we'll use that method to troubleshoot or answer questions versus getting on the dreaded, let's have a 30-minute call a week and a half from now to answer this very minute question. So, that makes the customer exchange faster. So answering questions and troubleshooting, that's big. The other thing is, once you have a bit more of like a seasoned customer, you don't always need to have these big check-in calls, right? If things are going well, you want to have a touch point, but they may not want to get on these long calls. So what you can do is have a Vidyard where you're looking at their campaign, their performance, whatever method of KPI they're looking at to determine if they're going to get value from your product. You can have a screen share of that, or a screen share of a PowerPoint, and talk through like, here's what's going well, here's some areas of opportunity, here's some next steps for you. And you can summarize that in 2 to 3 minutes, send that over to your contact, get their feedback asynchronously, right? That's key. A lot of people, it's hard to find time during the business hours. So you may find that you can get adoption of products, or get a feel if they want to, if they're interested in upsell or a new type of product, just by kind of doing that type of interaction and not limiting so much to meetings. So post sales, we find video is reducing the number of meetings, and that does not mean we're reducing touch points. It's just reducing traditional meetings. When we do have meetings, it's strategic. It's talking about bigger plans, growth plans, not answering as much tactical stuff.
I'm going to say that I believe that's working the way the buyer wants to work too. So Mal,
Yeah.
I think that was just like super solid. Like I'm even thinking, man, that's something I'm going to take that one back personally. Okay. Number 6, how quickly. Okay. So this is about like, if you buy a video, you become a Vidyard customer, you're a sales leader, you're a director, you're a VP, and you want to get your team going on this. Like, okay, what are you going to face? Are they going to want to do it? Is it hard to get them to do it? So, let's see, Mallory, we're going to start with you on this one. What does ramping your team look like?
Yeah, so I think first off, I would find out like within your company who like what their comfort level is with video. We found that our senior leaders assumed everybody hated video, right? And I don't want to play an age card. That's not necessarily true, but maybe it's a technology card a little bit. But more of our senior leaders assume that people would be uncomfortable. They don't like it. It's not for them. A lot of the sales reps, it depends on age, but a lot of them are in their 20s and 30s. And most of them grew up in the Instagram, TikTok age where everything is video, and that's how they consume content. So for many of them, it was like, okay, I haven't done this before, but I'm not scared of video. So I think first off is like getting a feel of like who would actually be a promoter and who would truly be a detractor. That'll tell you how hard it's going to be. I think from there, the actual training of the tool is easy. It takes an hour to figure out how to use it. We work with tons of tech providers. Normally it takes a month plus to get people to learn how to use a tool. This tool takes an hour of training. After that, it's about setting adoption goals. So I truly believe in any change management. If you're not setting strict usage goals, you're never going to drive the change management fast enough. So for us, it would be like, all right, you had training. Tomorrow, make your first video. Make it ugly, have all the bloopers, everybody send your worst blooper into the chat and let's all laugh at each other, right? By the end of the week, I want everybody to do 3 videos, these types of videos, and be very prescriptive. I think if you tell people go use video, they're going to be scared, right? They're not going to know what to do because that's tough, right? So I think you need to think of yourself as kind of like a trainer, like go make these 3 types of videos that are this length, kind of saying this, just so they can practice and get used to it. So I think that has helped. And then I think the last thing is a lot of people thought they had to be formal, right? Especially at LinkedIn, we work with a lot of B2B marketers and everything they feel like has to be so buttoned up. And what we actually found is like the casual ones where people messed up a little bit, people responded better to that and almost kind of laughed. And it was like, wow, you're human, right? This isn't just some like stock video with phenomenal production value. It's a real person just trying to connect with another. So I think that human element has been really key. So I'd say, again, figure out if you actually have that many detractors, have strong usage goals, and then embrace the bloopers.
Perfect. So I was mentioning before that I did a bit of a road show with all of our AE huddles and was encouraging them to use video. And this is literally the first slide in the presentation where I talk about why use video at all. And so this is what I say to them, and I'll say to folks on this call. Studies show that about 2/3 of people are visual learners. So that's the reason right there. If you think about the sales cycle, I was talking about this before, oftentimes we're trying to share visual information as well as auditory or written information, but we're trying to share visuals and words, and there's no better medium to do that than video. So it's kind of a no-brainer on that front. Video, of course, conveys nonverbal cues, body language, facial expression, vocal tone, eye contact, all those things that you don't get just from writing email copy, and those help to build a human connection. It allows you to create that bespoke sales experience, whether it's during the prospecting phase, or I was talking about sending out micro demos after a call. It allows the prospect to feel like they're really getting a bespoke experience. And increasingly, we just live in this world where videos are everywhere, whether it's TikTok, whether it's Zoom calls, whether it's Netflix or whatever. I think most people are at this stage in the game ought to be pretty comfortable with video. And then, so those are all the qualitative reasons I encourage the team to use video. What you're looking at, the trend line down there, and it's a little bit hard to read. I realize the font's really small, but basically the blue lines, or the blue bars there, we have what we call an AE scorecard. And so every single account executive gets rated on a variety of factors, like their, how many emails they send out, what kind of connection rates they have, what's their demo to close rate. And there's this combined AE scorecard. So the bars on the right represent the best of the best when it comes to AEs. And the trend line is their average use of video. We're able to see that in Vidyard. And there's this really strong correlation between how much sales reps use video and how well they perform as sales reps. So there's just a really strong correlation there. And this is usually enough proof for people to get on board with video.
Man, talk about an ROI story. That to me, that's like, if that's the slide. That's such a good slide. Mallory, did you want to say something on that?
Yeah, no, I would agree. We've seen the same type of impact of it. Our high performers tend to be using video more. I also think that for anybody who's a sales manager or leader on the call, if I have a sales rep come to me and complain that they're not hitting their number and they don't have Vidyard usage, you're not doing everything you can to sell. I'm sorry, but don't say that, right? So I think and I myself, I've been a sales person my entire career. I know at times when I'm leveraging all of the tools to their maximum capability, and times when I've maybe leaned into the one I'm most comfortable in, right? So I think sometimes for sales reps, if they're not leveraging it, I think that's the feedback I would say is, if you're hitting your number, great. There's not much I can say as a sales manager or sales leader against that, right? But if you're struggling to hit some of these key KPIs and your number, you should be exhausting all avenues around you. And if we have video ready to go for you, and we've seen your peers are doing really well with video, you've got to start embracing it and start to give it a go. So I think sometimes just level setting that has been a big wake up call for the few people on our team that were unsure of it. It was, you hit your number, fine, I can't say much, but if you're missing, you really have to use all avenues. And this is a great one.
All right. So now the dreaded question. You're a head of sales, you're a department leader, you're a head of marketing, whatever. You own demand gen, somewhere in there, and the CFO is looking to cut budget because this is what they're doing right now. Like, let's face it, and they're looking all over. What can they stop? What can they stop spending on? We've kind of hit on this a bit, but I just let's just for the purpose of everyone having to face this, let's just kind of double down on it for a second. So Thad, for you, how do you defend a tool like Vidyard?
Yeah, in a similar way that I would encourage people to defend a tool like Zoom Info, or Mallory, I don't know if your team sells Sales Navigator, but I'd imagine this is a similar line for the folks who sell Sales Navigator at LinkedIn. Is hey, we have to make cuts. We have to make them someplace. Get that. Let's not bite off the hand that feeds us. This is a revenue generating tool. That's not where we should be cutting right now. Like, that is the last thing we need, is to hinder or hamper our sales reps' ability to close deals. So I think that's a pretty simple argument, and that's the one I would go with.
Love it. Mallory, you want to add anything on that?
No, it's similar. I would just say, like, if we close one deal or we get one upsell that we can attribute to the use of video, what is the value of that? And how does that compare to the cost of the contract? Many times you'll see it's very few closed deals won or upsells needed to cover the cost of some of these contracts. I know it varies by company and all of that, but there's other places to cut, right? Travel and entertainment is probably the first one that should go before we start looking at cutting tools that reduce seller productivity.
100%. Anything that can help it accelerate, can close more, can create more opportunities, I think is a risky area to start cutting. Okay, so this data stat sets us up for the next question here. Which when we think about, like, what are people buying? What software are people buying? Now, one of the areas that has been underinvested in for the last 15 years is anything to do with customer success. So up until like 5-10 years ago, there wasn't even really a customer success category of tools. Like, they used whatever everyone bought. They used Salesforce or whatever. But now there's all kinds of tools that help us drive better engagement, drive adoption, and increase lifetime to value, like expand. There's a lot. And so what this stat is basically showing you is that this is the highest trend in terms of a change. Like, so there wasn't a lot in 2018. There wasn't a lot of investment in this. And investment in these kinds of tools that can help you do more with customers, make them happier, more successful, do more for them, sell more, upsell, whatever you want to think about it. It's up almost 8x. It's a lot, right? So, let's we're going to think about that now. Like, what role can video play? So if you have an existing customer base and you want to grow more through your customers, you want to expand opportunities, ensure retention, drive higher deal sizes. So Mallory, this is your wheelhouse.
It is.
So tell us more.
Yeah, so to give people some background, my team supports advertisers who are advertising on LinkedIn. It's a self-serve model, so they can sign up via credit card and start advertising on LinkedIn. So our team is assigned thousands of these customers, and we have to figure out how to support them. So a big thing is that we think about is like product adoption. So if people aren't following best practices, how can I create small videos that I can get out to all of them? And how can I do that in a unique way for each of them? So I could do a screen share, right? They could talk about, here's what you need to do on your campaigns, and that can go out to the customer. I think when you start to think about customer success in the masses, though, you start to just think about like where video can cut out time. So you can't meet with every single customer necessarily in some ways for customer success. That's usually the biggest problem. Is the old lever used to be throw people at the problem and that'll drive customer success. You can't do that in today's market, right? So now you have to figure out how each customer success person can cover more accounts. To do that, you have to think about efficiency. So how do you remove unnecessary non-strategic meetings, and what can you replace them with? So again, answering questions, how-to guides, showing value. Rather than having a 30-minute weekly or monthly check-in call, I can do a 5-minute video saying, here's what's going well, here's what you should think about, let me know, right? All of those things save the seller time. And because, again, you're not dealing with calendars, it's going to happen faster. I also think, to be honest, at least what we're seeing on our end is a lot of our decision makers, everyone's more protective of their time, right? Post-COVID, people aren't taking meetings at 6 o'clock, and they're trying not to do these back-to-back crazy days. They're trying to have more balance. So part of that means things get pushed out further, or it may be like, my campaign's going okay. I don't want to have a meeting for a couple of weeks. That's wasted time that you're not impacting the customer. So again, a video to interject here, send over to them that they can watch in their own time. That will move your sales process further. That will show your ROI faster. That will allow you to continue to show value without it having to be in this like formal old traditional call. So those are the different kind of ways that we've thought about it from like a post-sales implementation and expansion perspective.
Oh, so good. I think, I mean, this is one of the biggest trends right now in leadership teams and board meetings right now. The conversation is, there's a lot of conversation around how do we help our customers see time to value and know that there's an ROI.
And protect revenue, right?
Yeah,
That's the big, protecting
protect-
revenue is the big conversation these days.
Yep. And so you just outlined a bunch of great use cases and examples. So thank you for doing that. I love those. Okay, question number 9. Where do we see, where are you guys going? Where's LinkedIn going? Where's, Thad, where's Zoom Info going? Like, what's next for video? And then I'm going to give 2 bonus tips on video as we wrap up.
Yeah, I mean, I wish I had like Thad's team as part of my team. I think the area that we're not maximizing is partnering with product marketing and marketing. Admittedly, our product changes a lot very frequently.
Yeah,
our product changes very frequently, so we don't have as many external how-to videos or things that we can get from marketing or product to then plug into our video strategy. That's the area that I think we need to work on in order to really unlock the value of video, because right now everything is sales rep made and led, and there's that whole other arm that we could be utilizing.
My last thing and point of view is funny, but this is our research on building point of view. Brands really need to stand out. They need to differentiate, and you can do that with a point of view. So here's our GTM Partners 4-step guide to building your point of view. I think video is one of the strongest ways to express your point of view, because as Thad said earlier at the beginning of the call, it's much harder to type something up that explains a bunch of stuff than just talk about it. And so if as an organization, you create a clear point of view and you teach your reps, they can really share that so simply through video, and who you are as a company, why you exist, what you do. It'll just come across authentically. So that to me is sort of a superpower video, and it's a way to stand out in a day there's a lot of noise. So we got to stand out. So I'm going to leave it on that one.